All right, it is Wednesday, and just so you know, right away, this is not going to contain anything from last night's Flash episode. So this is only the first two parts of Crisis. So if you haven't seen last night's, don't worry. It's just going to be from the Supergirl and Batwoman episodes, like part 1 and part 2, not the Flash, because I haven't watched it yet, and because we get it on like Netflix in Canada, and I haven't had a chance to sit down. I've been going like all day. So, and then I don't have a Patreon song yet for today because, again, very busy. So I'm just going to do Patreon. And there are some people who like it when I don't sing. So this is the day for you, patreon.com/Leanna K. But please keep your Patreon support coming in. It is super, super useful because even though, I'm building Twitch and occasionally on YouTube, advertising stuff is so unreliable. Patreon, believe it or not, even with the entropy that happens, like every month, some people drop off, some people come back. It is a really good, like, reliable cushion for things. It's super, super helpful. And I normally do this kind of stuff on Patreon, TV and stuff like that, reviews, but this came up on Twitch last night, so I thought it would be of interest. I'm going to try to keep specific spoilers to a minimum. There will probably be some because I have to make my point, but I got to admit, I'm really not loving it so far. There are parts of it, I admit, I went crazy. I was so freaking excited, right? Like Kevin Conroy, every minute, like every second he was on the screen, I was excited. But I think that's the thing. It's like, yay, it's Kevin Conroy, Batman, and all that stuff. And that's not a spoiler because a lot of these cameos were way, way, way pre-sold in advance. So people knew it was coming. The Burt Ward one was cute. The best parts for me, Brandon Routh really got a moment to show the nuances of his acting because he plays multiple characters and you get to see them like side by side. And even I knew they were different portrayals, but even I didn't realize how different his Superman and his Ray Palmer were. So they gave him a really great moment. I thought that the Batwoman Supergirl moments were pretty good, even though they were very on the nose. They telegraph certain things with Batwoman a mile away, and I think they're trying a little too hard to make her integral to the whole crossover. I think because they're trying to help her show catch, which is, that's the business end of these sorts of things. And I know this is part of the reason I wanted to talk about it, because on Twitch, some people were kind of bothered by the sort of replacement factor of the proxies for, Superman being Supergirl, although there is a Superman involved, multiple Supermen. But, Batwoman instead of Batman, there's this idea that all like the big Trinity male characters are being replaced by women. Now, I see from the business end of it, they wouldn't let TV use Batman, not even Gotham, like except for that one episode at the end. And so that's not their fault. That's not a choice. It's funny because what bothers me is not as much that the dudes are being replaced because there's Superman all over it, right? It's the profound lack of Wonder Woman in this crisis. It is just an obvious hole. There is nothing even remotely like Wonder Woman. And I think it really is missing something because of that. Again, not necessarily their fault, but the weaknesses in writing, especially in character writing and dialogue writing and plotting. Plot is hard when you're doing a crossover like this, right? Because there are so many characters, and even the original Crisis on Infinite Earth, the 12 issue comic book series that went for a year, it was a bunch of moments. The first time I read it, I was like, what is going on? It was like, to me, like somebody died like every other page. And it was just like this overwhelming, like, and you got to remember that when Crisis on Infinite Earths originally came out, like the whole Infinity War hadn't happened, the whole Thanos existed, but that story that everybody's saying that Crisis is a ripoff of, that hadn't happened yet. So it's actually backward. Like, yes, okay, the whole, like, Infinity War, the Infinity Stones, all that stuff, that Thanos saga, that, yes, that got to the screen first, but this idea of this big, like, comic book universe-wide crossover thing, Crisis on Infinite Earths was the first thing to do that. And so I think, I find it very ignorant for people to go, well, it's just like Avengers Endgame. Let them have it. Because Crisis did come first, and besides, it's TV, it's not movies, and, you know, big bad with square jaw thumping around big honking feet talking about destroying the world, or in Thanos' case, half of the universe, that's not a new thing. Like, that's, like, villains from the time they started telling these sorts of stories. He's going to destroy the Thing. We must stop him. It's an easy setup. I admit I'm enjoying seeing characters like Harbinger, like Pariah, all that stuff sort of reimagined. But for people who are not familiar or like don't have any emotional attachment to the comics, I don't know how much that adds. There are a lot of homage moments, like the Supergirl and Batwoman moment. That's an homage. But the parts I'm loving the most are the comedy moments. And once again, like Legends of Tomorrow is just tonally saving this stuff. 'Cause the whole Arrow, everything focused on Arrow, like Arrow's death, and I mean, that's not a spoiler because we've known that's been coming for a really long time. What an underwhelming thing. Ollie deserved better. And yeah, that wasn't the end. But, you know, I didn't feel it. They were promising like this big, oh, if you don't cry, we have failed this city. I know that was a joke, but still, I didn't feel it at all. I was not sad. It was too rushed. It was too dumb. You know, I said, my husband and I were watching, I said at the time, wow, Green Arrow was just killed by, like, killer farts. Like, it, no. And like I said, that wasn't the end, but, ugh, not well done. And I get that the CW is primarily a teen audience, but still, the big kaiju fight with a Tickle Me Elmo, Bluebro wants cuddles at the, you know, that season finale of Legends of Tomorrow a few times back, you know, the unicorn killing people with rainbows that sliced off a dude's nipple, like, it was all way more exciting, even though it was totally stupid. And I think part of it is that because Legends of Tomorrow is a bunch of characters that nobody really cared about before this, they're like a bunch of second and third stringers. They have a lot more freedom to play in that sandbox than the pressure on some of these characters. The Flash has been useless in Crisis so far. And pretty much anybody I haven't mentioned at this point, I've kind of forgotten about. And, oh, Constantine. Constantine's there to be Constantine. And Constantine being there makes me remember that it's like, oh, yeah, he was really great on a not very good show before. So how about we just take Batwoman and put her in the Legends? Because she'd fit really well. She could play off the other characters well. And we could just forget, because the Batwoman show, I'm sorry for people who love it. I love Batwoman. I cosplayed her before. It was cool. Look it up. I love the character. I loved that arc in the comics with Alice as the villain. It worked in the comics. It does not work on screen the same way. The show is just, the fight scenes are really good. And that almost saves it, but not quite. The show itself is just not there. Maybe it'll click. The first season of Legends of Tomorrow was terrible as well, but the show is not there yet. But she's great. Is Ruby Rose they? I'm not quite sure. I know they're non-conforming, but I'm not sure if they use the neutral pronoun, but wonderful. The character's Batwoman, so I'm going to call her she. But she's wonderful in the part. She's really, really good. She actually almost reminds me of like Michael Keaton in the role. She's really good. But the show is not. So like put her in Legends and like take a few characters from Arrow and like put them in Legends. Cause I'm not sure about this spin-off Green Arrow and the Canaries. Like for people who don't know, they're like there was a big passing of the torch thing with Oliver Queen and his daughter Mia, and Mia Queen, like it sounds like a drag name, but I don't know. I will admit to have been burned out on Arrow for about 3 seasons now. And every time Robbie Amell was on Legends, right? Stephen Amell. Robbie Amell was Firestorm? Yeah. But every time Stephen Amell is on screen, I'm like, oh yeah, I like him. He plays a not great part very, very well. But the show itself, it was out of gas way before they realized. I mean, The Flash is out of gas as a show too. Even though I think Grant Gustin is a really great Flash, they are recycling concepts from show to show, and if you watch them all, it's really obvious. Two more things I want to give a shout out to. One is the Tom Welling scene. I know that's the controversial thing. Because for people who haven't seen it, I just know it's controversial. I really liked it. Now, part of the reason I really liked it is it was just cool to see him again. And I thought he kind of looked more like Superman now that he's got, a more mature face than he did on Smallville. But it worked for me. And then I love John Cryer as Lex Luthor. I didn't think I'd ever say this, but he is the absolute best Lex Luthor ever. And this is what's frustrating to me about Supergirl as a show. There are elements of Supergirl that are utterly freaking brilliant in terms of Superman storytelling. Lena Luthor is a very good character, and the actress is hot as anything, okay? Seeing Martian Manhunter on TV, always cool, just because I'm a Martian Manhunter fan. I even like the sister, like the adopted sister relationship. Again, that does have something to do with the fact that the actress who plays her looks really, really great in that like tight black suit. Not gonna lie. But they spend too much time having grown-ass adults have the emotional maturity of teenagers. And that gets in the way of otherwise really great stuff, including John Cryer being utterly terrifying as Lex Luthor. I keep going, this is the guy from 2.5 Men. This is the guy from 2.5 Men. My God. I get why he took the part, because I have never seen him like this. He's really, really, really good. Really believable. And when he was introduced on the show last year, I was like, I want more of that. And so I was quite happy to see him come back in Crisis. And to me, he's kind of the Gollum of the whole piece, which kind of works. But he's really good. And I mean, he's a despicable character, just twisted person, but oh man, so good. And so that's the thing. Obviously, I've said here, I like a lot about it, but like the original, the concept of the original was groundbreaking in the comics. Less so in a TV show. The logistical feat of even getting it done with this many shows combined and this many cameos and just the sheer ambition of the project, I have to applaud that. It was a big swing. But I'm really hoping it gets better from a storytelling perspective, because they're really not. And maybe we're just sort of, as viewers, sort of tapped out on destruction, right? Between all of the Marvel stuff and the final season of Game of Thrones and a lot of the other stuff that's going on in media, we're just kind of tapped out on existential threat. And it's almost like the things that sort of mean more now, at least to me, are sort of like the personal losses, right? Like, I feel those more. I care more about those than, oh, they wiped out 3 planets. This, like, 3 entire universes this episode. And like the numbered universes and all that stuff, if you're lost by that, that's a nerd thing like me. That, like, the fact that they're numbering the universes based on the year some of these properties launched, like, 96 and 99 and like all that stuff. You don't need to know that. I do think that with the Brandon Routh Superman moment, the minute I saw the Daily Planet clip, I'm like, that's the Donner universe. But it was the extended Donner universe with Superman Returns. But I think they did a bunch of visual homages to Injustice. And I haven't seen anybody else mention those in any of like the online stuff, but I saw them. It's like, the way he pins somebody up against the wall is the same way it happened in the games, and some of the fights over the city and the way they sort of knock somebody into another environment. And there was a great moment that was like an homage to one of the Cavill films where he was about to crash into the building and then he sort of swerves because, part of the criticism of that Superman Zod fight is that, wow, how many people got killed in those buildings? So there's a lot of Easter eggs for hardcore nerds. But this is a television show, not, nerd trivia night at a local pub. There's a reference to that too. But it does sort of have to tell a good story on its own. And that's going to be challenging with this source material, because the big lasting things from the original Crisis series, comic book series, it was a collection of moments. The death of Supergirl, some of these other, like the death of the Flash. This is in the comic books. This is not spoilers for the show. Those are iconic visuals that they're sort of calling back to in moments on the shows. But really great adaptations overcome the weaknesses in the originals because they recognize the weaknesses in the originals. And the original Crisis on Infinite Earths was designed to actually solve a problem with DC continuity. They wanted to put everything on one Earth because it was getting too hard to follow. Yes, they are doing something similar with Crisis, bringing all the different shows onto the same Earth. By the way, I hear the Black Lightning tie-in is really excellent. I haven't had a chance to watch that yet. I'm way behind on Black Lightning, and that's not an official Crisis episode. It's a tie-in, which I don't know why they haven't brought Black Lightning in sooner. Like, there's a lot of lesbian characters in the CW universe. It's odd. There's I'm not sure if it's the same Titans that they showed. Like, there's been no Doom Patrol yet, which makes me sad. And if Doom Patrol is involved, I'm going to kind of freak out because I love Doom Patrol. But Doom Patrol and Titans are the same universe. So if Titans is in, then Doom Patrol's in. And that will make me happy, because that means we might see, like, Doom Patrol characters on some of the CW shows. But, really, they have to just get back to what they did in season 1 of The Flash, which was they were going to tell 12 episodes of great Flash storytelling, right? Or 26, or I don't know. I think it was 12. But they seem to be forgetting that TV is telling a story one episode at the time and giving people a good time in that episode. They stretch out, they decompress the storytelling too much. it takes too long to have anything happen. And I still have this sense that nothing is happening, even though like Earths are getting wiped out and characters are dying and all that stuff. I still have the sense that the series is holding its breath. And hopefully that will improve. Like, the Flash episode that aired last night is going to be a massive cliffhanger, because then there's this break and then there's the 2 in January. And my prediction going forward is we are going to care more about these sort of second string characters that get killed off or their run on the show ends, more than the big names. Even though we know that's coming too. We know whose contracts aren't being renewed. But we are going to feel that more than the ones we were supposed to care about a lot. And that's sad, because, I mean, for people who don't know, the Green Arrow show, there's a reason it's called the Arrowverse. That show started it all. That show is the reason that all these shows exist on the CW. And I wanted a better death for him. Like, it was really disappointing. Maybe they'll redeem it on the do-over, but I don't know. Hope you like that. If you don't, oh well. I needed a video for today, and there wasn't much else out. But I'll follow up when it's done again in the new year. But this is enough. Okay, Patreon.com/LeannaK. Please sign up if you like more stuff like this. If you want to see more stuff like this, it doesn't tend to do very well because this is more of a like gaming adjacent channel than TV. So I talk more about this on Patreon because it normally doesn't do well. But like I said, this came up in Twitch, and this is what Wednesday videos tend to be. So you should join us on Twitch on Tuesday night so you can influence the stuff. But also, thank you for watching.